Welcome to Dialogue. In this year's Beijing Auto Show, the new energy vehicles, or NEVs, have been under the limelight, accounting for more than 80% of the debut models. The number of exhibited NEVs also reached a record high. Besides domestic players, overseas carmakers also swarm into the show for more investment opportunities and technological cooperation. What are some of the highlights of this year's auto show? What is behind China's EV boom? And how can the world set aside protectionism and improve cooperation to tackle climate change? That's our topic. I'm Xu Qinduo. Joining me today is Victor Yang, a Senior Vice President and spokesperson from China's carmaker Geely Holding Group. Welcome to Dialogue, Victor.
Thank you for having me.
Well, at this year's Beijing Auto Show, new energy vehicles accounted for over 80% of the debut new cars, occupying a dominant advantage. First, what do you think are some of the reasons, for the rapid rise of new energy vehicles in China?
China has made up the plan to transform the auto industry to become new energy oriented. 10 years ago, I think ever since then, the whole industry is investing in the new technology around new energy vehicles. Not only the platform, but also the key components and software. At the same time, I think we have tried to build up a quite state-of-the-art infrastructure to support the growth of new energy vehicles. And of course, I think the younger generation, after they try the new technology from NEV, they really like it. I think that's the major reasons. The whole industry invests a lot. We have a complete value chain and the key components to support the growth of new energy vehicles. And also we have the charging facilities to support that. And also I think customers have built up the consumption behaviors. They really have preference for NEVs.
Okay, speaking at the Beijing Auto Show, Chinese Premier Li Qiang emphasized the need to vigorously develop intelligent, connected new energy vehicles and promote the high-end, intelligent and green upgrade of the automotive industry. What do you make of the remarks by the Chinese leader here in terms of developing, into the future or the direction here?
Yeah, we have seen in the industry that first half of the game is focusing on electrification. That means you need to change the drivetrain of the cars from traditional ICE to nowadays the electric drivetrain, including the battery, the electric motor. But the next half of the game will be focusing on smartification, getting more of the intelligent features in the car. When we talk about the so-called intelligent part of the car, we normally refer to the so-called autonomous driving technology and the in-car connectivity service in the car. So the car is more like a big mobile phone on four wheels in the future, that the car needs computing powers, need to be connected always online. The car can drive itself to anywhere you want in the future. And also you can have a lot of functions and features in the car, like not only listen to music, watch movies, but you can play games, you can have video conference, you can even, have, play chess or poker in the future with your friends, not only in the car, but from a city far away. You can always get connected. So to have all these functions and features on the car needs to be more connected and more intelligent. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, where the value added comes from.
what you have described, software is becoming more and more important. We do see like the mobile phone maker Xiaomi is stepping into the car making industry, right? Their car is also popular. And also you have Huawei is working with car makers providing more software. At the same time, you do see foreign brands, for example, the car makers including Toyota, Nissan, and Hyundai. They are reaching cooperation deals with Chinese companies. In that respect, why are the foreign brands working so closely with the Chinese companies here?
Yeah, since the whole industry is undergoing a dramatic transformation, I think the nature of the car building and the car ownership experience totally changed. That's actually, in a way, forced the traditional car maker to embrace the open, say, ecology, to work closely with partners outside the traditional car industry. In the past, if you are an OEM, of course, you will design the car by yourself. You will have the key features defined by yourself, and then you have what we call the first tier suppliers to supply the key components. By doing that, you can make a fairly good car already. But nowadays, since the demand from the customer changes, the technology in the car features changes, and the software play a much important role than before. So you cannot achieve, all the technology and you cannot define the car features only by yourself. That's why we say that the smart new energy vehicle industry is now a new ecology that we need to embrace the arrival of newcomers, and we need to do more cross-boundary cooperations, like we need to work with software service providers, we need to work with, say, mobility service providers, we need to work closely with the chipset makers. I can give you another example. We have a e-mobility service provider called Cao and Geely. It's a ride-hailing service platform, all using the EV products from Geely. And then we have more than 30 million registered on the platform already. And there will be about 4 or 5 million transactions each day. So that means by doing that, we are reducing the carbon emission a lot, because you do not need to drive a car to do your job or have some tourism in the city, and all the cars are using new energy vehicles. By doing that, we are saving a lot on the carbon emission side, and that's make the life of people much more easier, and the mobility service much more affordable as well.
Mm-hmm. Elon Musk of Tesla was in China recently, because of his presence in China, and then the stock price of Tesla skyrocketed by 15%. And of course, people say he was here about this so-called full self-driving system in China. Tell us more about that. Autonomous driving. How far is that?
That's the future of cars. I think in the future, all cars will be connected. And I think most of the cars will have the capability of full self-driving, so that the driving experience will be safe. And you can save a lot of labor, actually, for example, for the taxi or the ride-hailing service industry. And people do not need to spend their time on driving the car, but rather, just step in a moving space and do whatever they want. That will make life more relaxed and more interesting. I think that's the future. I think China welcomed companies like Tesla here, and Tesla actually have achieved, I think, a big success in China already by having their factory, by selling their most popular products to the Chinese customer, and also exporting some of the cars made here to other parts of the world. I think that shows the Chinese car industry is open to all international players. We welcome new technologies. We welcome new players. We give them equal treatment. I think if the new energy technology and new energy solutions for the car industry in China will still be leading in the world, we need to have such an attitude. We need to, open our arms to all foreign investment and give them the right, environment to grow that business here, to bring that technology here, as long as they create value and bring, satisfying experience to the customer here. And of course, I hope that the Chinese EV makers can have the same treatment in other parts of the world. That means if we have the most advanced technology solutions, we have the right cars, we have the right service business model, and we can make the mobility experience of customers more fun and more affordable, then I think we should have the chance to bring our product and service there.
Well, you talked about the autonomous driving in a very confident way. Are you saying that basically the Chinese side, including GD products, of course, you are confident that in terms of competing with Tesla?
Of course, I think in the past, actually, we took Tesla as a benchmark in the design and features of their cars. I think a lot of the startup company like Xiaopeng, Lixiang, or NIO all follow the same way. In a way, in making their cars more capable. In nowadays we call it ADAS. They are more like advanced driving assistant features. We cannot say driverless car. That's not forbidden by law here in China for the moment. You need to change the legislation so that people can really move their hand away from the driving wheel in the future. Nowadays, although you have the capability of driving assistant features, but you cannot move your hand from the driving wheel. But in the future, I think not far away, like 5 to 10 years, of course, we can have a full self-driving vehicles on the road. And the target for the entire car industry, especially the leading companies in China like Geely, of course, will be leading in the full self-driving capability build-up, because we are competing with Tesla not only here in China but also in the future will be in other parts of the world. If people like the features, we need to provide the same or even better features. And of course, given the scale of the Chinese car industry, we need to provide the same features with a lower cost.
Victor, thank you for your time and insight. Let's have a short break. Welcome back. To discuss more on China's new energy vehicle development and green transition, I also spoke with Professor Daniel M. Kammen from the University of California, Berkeley. He's also the lead author of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports, which won the 2007 Nobel Peace Prize. Welcome to Dialogue, Professor.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Well, the Beijing Auto Show has made a big splash in China. At the same time, of course, we are seeing, international car makers at this auto show. They are, for example, Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. They are expressing intention to continue investing in the Chinese market, especially in developing and researching new energy vehicles. Explain to us, what's the intention, why they are doing this?
I think that the reasons are very clear, and that is that any economy that wants to meet its carbon goals, both for a domestic market and for exports, needs to, in the end, switch over 100% to new energy vehicles. And so what we're seeing with, again, the companies you mentioned, but also Hyundai, VinFast, many others, BYD, Beijing Automakers, all of these others, they are seeing both the climate forces and the market forces at work. And it's just gratifying to see that customers are responding to that.
Well, Chinese car makers, they enjoy advantage, let's say, in smart travel, car intelligence systems, and lithium batteries, of course. At the same time, more and more foreign car makers, they are embracing the Chinese technology. For example, earlier you mentioned the names, Toyota, Nissan, Hyundai, for example. They are cooperating with China's Tencent, Baidu, in terms of software design, in terms of battery making, of course. So what's your take on that?
Well, I would note that there's many car makers that are all moving to these vehicles. For example, VinFast, the Vietnamese company, they have their own software. They're actually a mixture of Vietnamese, South Korean, and US technology. So we're seeing companies taking up the best available hardware and battery technology and software. And so it's really a global market. I expect this to take place everywhere. Already in the Norwegian market, we are seeing over 80% of new car sales are new energy vehicles. Here in California, where I am based, Tesla is the best-selling vehicle, not just among new energy vehicles, but among all vehicles. And so we're seeing this on a global market. And again, in the world's biggest auto market in China, it's gratifying to see this mixture, this kind of friendly battle of companies for market share, all for zero carbon vehicles.
The renewable and appropriate energy laboratory in UC Berkeley, where you work as director, has been cooperating with many countries in the world in terms of green transition, of course, including China. So based on your experience, what is so special, or what's your understanding about China's green energy transition, especially in NEVs?
Well, I mean, again, China has set a target to have a zero carbon national economy by 2060. My own state of California has set 2045 as our zero carbon, not just for energy from power plants, but also for all modes. And of course, we can't get to that target unless all of our vehicles are electric or hydrogen, and that they run off of green electricity. And so that integration, that eco experience, circular economy, all of those things demand that our mobility be carbon free and that the energy that powers it being carbon free. And so when I look at Chinese cities, I was just in Guangzhou, where they have over 12,000 electric buses. I was recently in Hanoi in Vietnam, where they have more than 7,000 electric buses. That's really the wave of the future. It's not just, is your vehicle with the green license plates a new energy vehicle, but is all of your movement, not only of yourself, but of packages, green. And that requires the kind of seamless integration that we're seeing. Chinese markets are a perfect place for it, because what we see is that this is a place where we can think big in the sense of how do we meet all of the needs in a green circular economy. And that's why it's so exciting to be partnering in China, and also why it's exciting to see so many interesting advances that aren't just on the vehicle side, but also the whole rest of the green supply chain.
Let's take a look at some of the potential challenges related to NEVs. One of the long-term integration issue for NEVs worldwide is this added demand for power on the grid, and also the potential congestion if all the NEVs or many NEVs look to charge at the same time. That created a lot of pressure. So what is your group doing in collaboration with a partner in China, for example, to explore and find solutions to this challenge?
Well, this is, I think, what's really exciting. So starting in Shenzhen and now moving into other cities, what we've been doing is working with the ministries of transportation, the transportation authorities. We're doing it here in my hometown of Oakland, California. We're doing it in Fresno, California. And that is to use smart apps to minimize wait times. In fact, some of the largest charging stations in the world are in Shenzhen and now in Los Angeles, California. They can charge over 600 vehicles at once. That requires a lot more peak green power, but it also requires smart systems. And so the app we developed tells drivers where is the minimum wait time. It also tells them what routes could they take in cities like in Amsterdam, in Holland, where you can actually recharge while you're driving. You can inductively recharge your car. And these are all things that sound exciting today. They're going to become normal in the coming months and years as we again move to not only zero carbon when you're in the moving phase in your vehicle, but the whole experience of living in a city powered by green energy, where all of your opportunities to move goods, move yourself, move packages, have things delivered is all in a green system. And it's that green life experience that we think not only is good for the planet, but actually saves time. It provides more opportunities to use green energy effectively, but it means we have to really think in what I guess we'll call the green Internet of Things.
Well, I think you understand, of course, the Chinese situation. China as is in America. The two countries, they're vast. They are big nations. Big country. Of course, China has been basically deploying charging facilities across the nation. I mean, it's a job. It takes time, and also they are exploring or doing experiments on batteries, lithium batteries or other kinds of batteries, for long-range drives, for example, and also green to keep it green. So, what's your assessment for how China is doing in terms of this green transition?
Well, we're doing pretty well in China and the US. We are seeing charging stations being installed in good locations, meaning places where there's a lot of traffic. In Shenzhen, we saw the places to put the biggest charging bays were by the train stations and some of the biggest shopping areas in the CBDs, the central business districts. Same thing in California. Across the United States, where President Biden has utilized federal money to install 500,000 new charging stations. And so we're really seeing that coming rapidly, not only at homes, but schools and offices. So in terms of matching where we have rapid charging, level 2 and level 3 charging with need, that's going on. But the other side of your question, I think, is also really interesting, and that is there are some materials that are better for the planet than others. So one of them right now is the recognition that much of the world's cobalt supply comes with environmental and human rights challenges. So what we're seeing a number of companies, Tesla, VW, number of others, is to move to lithium phosphate batteries that do not involve cobalt at all. And so what we hope to see is greener and greener, more sustainable, more common materials going into the batteries. Those that are easier to recycle, those that don't come from areas that might harm ecosystems like rainforests. And so part of the switch is making sure that you don't only have a new energy vehicle, a zero carbon driving experience, but the life cycle of manufacturing and recycling also comes with the smallest possible environmental cost, so that we can really take part in what is broadly called and very much clearly stated in China as inclusive growth. And inclusive growth means the best opportunity for all citizens, not just the users of vehicles, but those who live in areas where some of these materials come from.
Well, you have stated in previous interviews that the world has recognized the climate crisis and there are many clean energy options available. But what is truly worrying is the pace of transition is too slow. At the same time, of course, we have noticed that China is rapidly developing clean energy vehicles, solar panels, batteries, but the U.S. side is expressing concern of the issue of, as they say, overcapacity. I wonder, what's your view on that?
So this overcapacity argument is interesting. I actually don't think there's any overcapacity. It gets talked about a lot, but when we look at the pace of decarbonization in China and Europe and the United States, it's happening at different rates, but it's happening in all three areas. But it must happen everywhere in the world. We need to see the South African and the Indonesian and the Malaysian and the Russian and the Northern European, Northern African economies all must move that way. That means I don't think there is any overcapacity. As we expand the green market and replace the dirty fossil market, there can be times when briefly there's too much capacity. Too many vehicles are being made, too much clean energy. But ultimately, we have to go much more quickly. And just to illustrate that, we recently wrote a paper about the agreement that President Xi and President Biden signed at the Asia Pacific Summit in November 2022. And what we found is that even with the rate of impressive adoption of green energy, both for power and for transportation, we're seeing around the world, the pace is right now not fast enough. And in fact, it's so dramatically slow that the amount of extra green energy we will need by 2030 so that we can meet the Sunny Lands Agreement that our president signed is actually equal to the total amount of green energy installed everywhere in the world today. So even with that growth path, we're going to have to add essentially another block that's huge. And that means this overcapacity argument, I think, is just a temporary bump. And if we're serious about the climate targets, we're going to need everyone to adopt green technologies, from solar panels to heat pumps to geothermal energy, places that use nuclear. All of that's going to have to be part of the mix, including transportation. So the battle in front of us is one that we're working at together. And I guess the most important thing for me is that it's very clear from the math that China cannot meet its clean energy targets unless pushed by the US and Europe, and we cannot meet our clean energy targets unless pushed by China. So we need each other in this battle to save the planet.
We are together. Thank you, Professor.
We are definitely together in this one. That's right.
Thank you for speaking with us. With that, we come to the end for today's show. Many thanks to our guests. You can also find us on the CGTN app on YouTube.